Welcome to the podcast that fuels the minds of ambitious business owners. Fuel provides business owners like you with easy to digest, bite-sized learnings to help grow your capability and keep you on track to achieving your version of success. Our expert speakers will draw on their own experiences and share valuable insights into areas that matter most in business.
Hi, thanks for stopping by. I'm your host, Paul Hobbs, and I'm joined on this podcast by Sam Ogle and Jess Tietjen, both directors at Plusmore in Hawke's Bay. We're here to fuel your minds on all things planning. So guys, what is a plan, and do we even need one if we're a business?
We definitely need one. All businesses should have a business plan. It's effectively a roadmap in which your business is going to take, and it outlines a few things, including your vision, your mission, goals, 90 days, 5 years plus. And the key thing I think about having a business plan in place is really to hold you accountable to what you've set out to do and make sure that you're sort of on that roadmap and hopefully going to achieve those goals, and at the end of the day that those goals are why you went into business in the first place.
Yeah, I think also, it's good management versus good luck. If you're going to rely on good luck, well, you might have some, but with good management, the probability of you being more successful in your business increases. So, and business planning is part of that good management.
And how detailed does it have to be?
It doesn't have to be super detailed. I mean, just something on a piece of paper is better than nothing. I think it's just really making sure that you have the key elements. So why you've gone out into business, where you see yourself in sort of 5 to 10 years in your business, and outlining some goals for the business, and probably more importantly, personal goals as well. And these don't actually need to be financial. They could be sort of, I want to take a holiday, once a year, or I want to be able to take time out of my business for X amount of weeks each year. It can be sort of a pull together of lots of different aspects of where you see your business and your personal life going.
What I would add to that is that while the plan itself doesn't need to be, to the nth amount of detail, so the nth degree amount of detail, and the rationale for that is the fact is that you won't read it again if it is, to be honest. But what I would say to that is that the thought process and the conversations and the discussion should, because you really need to sort of dig deep. And as part of our process through the business planning, we actually ask our clients to actually go away and think about these questions well before the session and to challenge themselves on those sorts of things. And then it allows us to then challenge them even further. And we really get to, filter those down to what are probably the more pure parts of why they want to be in business or why they are in business, what their vision is. If you make it up on the day, you might as well do a different plan every week, because it's going to change depending on how you feel.
Yeah, and then we consolidate that into a one-page document.
Wow, sounds like the hardest part. but hey, so it's not just about dollars and cents then. Clearly it's much broader than that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, most of the time people go into business to sort of, maintain a lifestyle that they'd like. So it's really sort of stepping back and knowing your why you went into business, and then coming up with, the goals associated with that why, and then tying them back into how that business is going to provide you with what you need and what you want.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes it doesn't have to be about being a multi-millionaire as being a business owner. Sometimes it can just be about doing 40 hours, being paid well, doing it as a passion. All these things can be tied together, and then so therefore some of the focus of the business plan might be actually going, okay, well, maybe I need to actually leave this room now and decide what everyone does in my business. What's everyone's role? Because my role currently cannot be done in 40 hours because I am the fireman that puts out all the fires, or I am everything to everyone. So that can just be some of the little quirks that we could say, hey, look, why don't you write down what your role should look like, and why don't you write down what Tim's should look like, who works for you, and Jennifer's, and let's just see where the holes are, and let's make sure that you're not the fix-it person.
So not everything has to be like reaching the absolute potential of what your business could be, because you might just want to do it because it's about a lifestyle. It might be about having environmental issues that you want to sort of address and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, and we respect that. Purely as accountants, we like to see financial success, but we have to respect that success doesn't have to be always about dollars for certain people. Some people just want to be the best at what they do. Yeah. They just want to make sure the outcomes for whoever their clients are top notch. And maybe they also want financial success on top of that, but it doesn't always have to be involved.
No, and success for everyone is very different. So yeah, it's definitely not all about the financials.
You talked earlier about you have to be held accountable to the plan. To who? Who should those people be? You know, who should be the ones that are sort of holding you to account? Or who should they not be, perhaps?
Well, who they should be possibly is your business partner, your trusted advisor, say your accountant or business coach. Probably not your spouse, perhaps, but you're just someone that you trust. And when we do it with our clients, they tend to be, we hold them accountable. So we would catch up with them at least quarterly and we'll reflect back on the business plan and go through their goals that they set the previous 90 days and touch base with them as to where they're at with those goals. And they might need to be rejigged. Something might have not sort of gone as well as they'd like. So we can change them. It's a very fluid plan.
Why do you say not their spouse? Sorry, I find that interesting.
I guess there's a risk there that the spouse lets you off.
Yeah.
Takes pity on you, or the other end of the spectrum, and asks more of you than what's in the plan. And I guess there's also sometimes, if the spouse doesn't work in the business, etc., or doesn't have a commercial background, that can be dangerous too, because there's a lot of, I guess, assumptions made then. So that would be the rationale for me, at least anyway, why I wouldn't have my non-relating to the business spouse sort of holding me to account over the dinner table, once a month.
You said, Jess, that it can be flexible and it can be changed. I'm thinking if you need to be held to your plan and yet you can change it all the time, there must be a balance between sort of giving up too easily and not being held to account, or realising that it does need to change. So how do you strike that balance?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't really want to change the overall vision of your business, because that's obviously a major change. But I mean, there are things that come up that sort of, change the sort of maybe pathway that you're sort of going on to get to that end goal, and things always happen. So I guess I'm not talking about sort of major changes to the plan, but little tweaks here and there often happen.
Just going back to the spouse piece. Look, perfect world, your spouse would come to the business planning session and therefore would be involved as well. Because I don't want to, downplay the fact that spouses shouldn't be involved in the business. They're directly affected by the business. So I just wanted to make sure that was really clear. Perfect world, they come, they chip in, they put in their 2 cents, everyone gets their views, especially around personal objectives. To your other point about accountability, I also wanted to add to that in a business planning session, you do look at your vision, you do also look at the values of the company. And where I'm going to with that is that when we set our values as a company, our employees can hold us and we can hold them to account on those values too, particularly as long as we're sharing them with them after that business planning session.
So when you say sharing then, so who do you share those plans with? We said earlier about the accountability might be at certain levels, but should you be sharing your business plan and your vision with the person on the shop floor, or the part-timer that comes in 2 days a week?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, they're the people that help you achieve those goals and get your business to where you want it to be. So while you might not share the sort of financial aspects of the business plan, by all means, share the vision and your mission and your values with all your staff members.
Yeah, I know, 100% agree, including perhaps potentially the KPIs as well. We're delving into bits of parts of the plan that we haven't covered yet, but KPIs are part of that business plan, and that's how we measure our success, whatever that success might be. But we should also be sharing that with our key stakeholders as well, and that may be some staff or all staff. But if we're all working towards the same thing, like what's the harm in that? I guess that's the point. You want everyone on board for the ride, so you need that buy-in from all your key stakeholders.
I guess we've touched in previous podcasts about team culture, so I guess that feeds into that too, if you can trust and communicate with them.
Absolutely.
Around those things. So what are some of the issues you're seeing around succession planning for business owners? I think that's obviously a part of planning as well. I mean, are you seeing things around that are either problematic or are going well?
I think it's probably not thinking about succession is what we see most often. I mean, most people go into business for a period of time, not sort of their entire lives or beyond. So it's really thinking about, how you're going to get your business into the best shape for possible sale, or possibly, having someone that's coming up the ranks, buying into your business. So part of the business plan, you need to reflect on where you sort of see the business going and think about succession and how you're going to get it ready for what might happen.
It is a separate type of plan from a business plan, but to Jess's point, yeah, if it comes through, if we're looking at your 5-year vision, and your 5-year vision is to build this wonderful systemized business rather than this ginormous monster that got out of control, then you intend to sell or sell part of to somebody else, it's good to be aware of that and put that, I guess, on the board for us to discuss. It should be a separate session. With succession, it's a really tricky one because some people, when you think of succession, it sounds like you just step out and you're gone and that's the end of it. Some people's succession planning is literally that we'll get a phone call and say, I've had a guts full, I'm out, sell it for me, or how do I get it sold? But if we're actually planning it and working through it, it can actually be a nice thing. It can be something that can take you beyond, I guess, being the GM of your business. You can still sit there on the board, you can still be involved, you can still mentor and share your knowledge with somebody else and also get a financial benefit long term out of that, as well as a financial benefit up front if people are buying in. So it's like in short, everyone's appetite around succession looks slightly different, but it should be, we should be planning it rather than, I guess, knee-jerk reaction.
Does succession planning also sort of encompass when you're changing key members in your management team? If you're thinking so-and-so's getting to a point where they probably are going to leave, I need to start planning for that in terms of building people through that. Does that become part of succession, or is that something a wee bit different?
It can bring it forward a year or two because we don't want to lose those key people. They may have already been in our thinking for our longer-term succession plan anyway. And so it may be that we need to address potentially some form of shareholding in that business or different remuneration package maybe, which isn't succession necessarily the second part, but the first part is. And so it may bring that, I guess to answer your question, it may bring it forward. If that person really is seen as being high value, I wouldn't offer it to everyone just because of fear of leaving. They still need to fulfill the role that we have envisioned for them. Otherwise, we're setting ourselves up for disaster as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we see that sort of succession happen and it's very successful. I mean, it's kind of best case scenario if you've got someone that's really passionate about your business, they've been there for a number of years, they know how it works, they're sort of on board with your vision, and then sort of, bringing them through and offering them a sort of potential shareholding or buy-in, that is sort of a really organic way to sort of, slowly sort of step out of the business that you've grown.
I think about maybe in some smaller centres, maybe it could be across bigger centres too, but if you've got family dynamics too, whether you're expecting maybe a son or daughter to step in, they're not really wanting to do it, does that make it awkward when you've got people perhaps in the business who would be better equipped to take over the business or buy it or step into a leadership role and not, a less than capable offspring?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, commerce is commerce, so we should be putting the best person into those positions. Unfortunately, if our little Timmy or little Lucy, who we hoped would take over the business, don't want anything to do with it or don't have the nous for it, we should just acknowledge it and manage it. I guess at the end of the day, it's like everything.
Yeah, it's all about communication. So sometimes the son or daughter might not actually even want to, step into your shoes. So it's just really, getting around a table and everyone's sharing their point of view and sort of, discussing where they see the role sort of taking shape or where the business is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, commonplace, I think where your question comes from is typically we're all Kiwis, so it typically comes from that hort ag kind of angle, I think more often than not. Perhaps not from the manufacturing side of things or construction side of things or even hospitality side of things.
But the farming type thing,
It'd be more common play in there and probably a far more sensitive or highly emotive sort of issue or topic within those farming and large horticultural families.
Yeah. So for business owners out there now, what would be some of the key points around planning per se that you could leave them with on this podcast?
I think the first one is to actually have a plan. You'd be surprised how many clients or new clients don't have one and haven't really ever sat down to even think about why they went into business. So I think first step, just get a plan. It can be super simple, just get something on paper.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I would point out in there would be understand and acknowledge why you're in business, and as part of that, what you intended to get out of that business as well, and then we can set that up. The other thing I would add, not perhaps to the key point, but to not scare people away from a business plan, is that we talked about this business plan being this one page, but within our methodology that we use, we actually then, and that's the end of that first session, we actually do break into the smaller bite-sized pieces that people can do to work towards to achieve that first page. So on the second page is the bite-sized pieces. So just want to make sure people aren't terrified that we say you have to be, if you want to make $2 million this year, and we just say, and that's the goal, make $2 million this year, and with absolutely no guidance or steps to get there either. But that's not the case.
I'm sure that's provided a lot of clarity for people that are about to dip their toes into business. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Fuel. Make sure to follow Fuel wherever you get your podcasts.